You've spent your entire life operating under a single, excruciating lie, that you must earn love by complying with the whims of everyone around you. You were trained from birth to smile, to be accommodating, to please at all costs. You were told that kindness and pleasing others would fortify your relationships, create unshakable bonds, and keep you safe from hostility. But deep in the pit of your mind, and don't deny it, you've always suspected the dreadful possibility. You are not truly loved. You are only tolerated. Every nod of approval, every compliment you received, and every forced smile that crossed another's face could be mere politeness, a social performance to keep the peace. This sinking doubt gnaws at you, whispering in your ear late at night. They don't really love you. They find you convenient at best, disposable at worst. And if that stings, it should. Prepare yourself. We're going to tear down the illusions you've clung to all these years. We're going to confront that central, harrowing fear, the fear that you're merely an ornament in others' lives. Fear, at its core, can be liberating when you know how to wield it. But right now, your fear has enslaved you because it was never harnessed with strategy. It was never used to uphold your authority. Instead, you let that fear paralyze you into seeking superficial approval. Society has raised you to quietly bow your head, hoping for a morsel of acceptance that can be ripped from you in a moment's notice. Today, you learn how to invert that dynamic, how to transform fear from a haunting weakness into a potent tool of respect. But it starts with acknowledging the vile truth. Love is not guaranteed. Not from your friends, not from your family, not even from those who vow undying devotion. Love is fleeting, and respect is the only fortress you can effectively defend. Schopenhauer once pointed out how easily human affections sway. Nietzsche called our illusions about unconditional love a comfort blanket for the weak. And Machiavelli? He insisted centuries ago that your pursuit of universal love is a fool's errand. Let those names guide your steps as we descend into the cold, bracing reality you must come to terms with. Are you still desperate to be liked? Still clinging to that bedtime story that if you give enough of yourself, your time, your energy, your very soul, others will reciprocate with unwavering loyalty? Let me show you a gallery of naivete. The co-worker who jumps to cover shifts to be nice, only to be passed over for promotions. The friend who invests emotional labor in everyone else's dramas, only to be excluded when they need help. The partner who keeps forgiving betrayals, only to have the final dagger twist deeper. Society drills into you that being nice is a universal currency, but it's a counterfeit note, worthless in the face of betrayal. By lavishing kindness upon everyone, you have essentially purchased illusions of acceptance. Your gestures are signals to opportunists, telegraphing that you are a well of resources they can siphon. Every extra favor you do, every unnecessary apology you utter, or every gentle compliance you offer flings the door wide open for exploitation. Why? Because in the real world, a world that Schopenhauer saw as driven by relentless will, most people are primarily self-interested. They don't explicitly hate your kindness, but they will inevitably see if they can twist it to their advantage. You become an expendable doormat. Face it, your approval-seeking, your forced niceties, your mania to be universally accepted, these things are precisely what sabotage you. Throw them into the fire of transformation. Strip them away. You must become something less easily manipulated, less pleasing, and far more respected. You have been conditioned to place love on a pedestal, as if it's the supreme guarantee of loyalty. But love is fragile, whimsical, an emotional swirl that cracks under pressure. Don't believe me? How many loving relationships have you seen crumble over a single misunderstanding? How many loyal friends vanish when your fortunes wane? Love is a castle in the sand. One good wave of conflict is enough to obliterate it. Fear, on the other hand, is etched into the mind like a scar. A child who touches a hot stove never forgets that agony. A subordinate who has witnessed your unflinching resolve or your punitive reaction never forgets the consequences of crossing you. Fear endures because it's rooted in survival. Does this mean you should become a despicable tyrant? Not necessarily, but it's time you learn that fear instills a deeper respect than any shallow affection. People dread crossing you if they believe the repercussions are grim. They can smile in your face all they want, but if they carry that lingering dread of your power, they will think twice before undermining or abandoning you. That is how fear commands loyalty, where love can crumble. If you shudder at the mention of Machiavelli, you've only absorbed the pop culture caricature of him. He was not preaching malevolence. He was describing how the real world works. It is safer to be feared than loved is a principle that has survived centuries, not because it flatters our moral fantasies, but because it reflects the grim mechanics of human behavior. Leaders who set out to be adored often discover the adoration fades the moment tough decisions need to be made. Meanwhile, leaders who anchor their authority in respect, reinforced by the capacity to instill fear, stand on more solid ground. You think modern society has moved beyond these old truths? You're deluding yourself. Every workplace, every school, every political stage still teems with hidden Machiavellian tactics: intimidation, alliances, strategic favors, covert manipulations. The difference is that these tactics are dressed in polite language and corporate jargon. Your own life has been shaped by these dynamics, whether you recognize them or not. The time has come to harness them consciously. Machiavelli didn't promote cruelty for its own sake. He simply recognized that people are self-serving, and a stable leader must account for that. Once you grasp that, your eyes open wide to the invisible chessboard on which you and everyone else has always been a piece. You might ask, should I just be ruthless? Only a fool wields raw power with no strategy. In Machiavelli's view, and in the eyes of any serious political thinker worth his salt, power stands on two pillars: laws and force. Laws, whether literal or metaphorical, set the boundaries of acceptable conduct. Force ensures those boundaries are enforced. Rely solely on laws, and you'll be as effective as a scarecrow in a hurricane. All posture, no real defense. People only obey laws they believe will be backed up with consequences. Conversely, rely on naked force alone, and you become a savage tyrant, sowing hatred that eventually unites your enemies against you. A cunning leader navigates the middle road, unwavering in the capacity to punish infractions, yet wise enough to enshrine boundaries in a code that resonates with people's sense of order. It's the same in personal relationships. If you say, "Don't disrespect me," but you show zero capacity to enforce that boundary, your words turn to dust. If you lash out uncontrollably at every minor slight, you'll breed insurrection. Master the interplay between law and force. Become the authority that sets standards and has the resolve to defend them. Do you still cling to the myth that if you're good enough, you'll be safe from betrayal? Let's break that myth. Goodness, without prudence, is a flashing neon sign that reads, "I will not retaliate, no matter how you wrong me." Picture the saintly friend who always lends money but never asks for repayment, or the colleague who does everyone else's tasks for no recognition. They receive fleeting gratitude, sure, but more often they're dismissed and taken advantage of. In an ideal world, such unguarded kindness would be cherished. But you don't live in that ideal world. You live in one that Schopenhauer described as a ceaseless clash of wills, where each person grips tightly to survival and personal gain. So your naive generosity, your excessive niceness, your unwavering forgiveness, these are not badges of honor. They are invitations for exploitation. Stop believing that if you just turn the other cheek enough times, your enemies will be moved to pity. That is the gospel of the weak. To truly be effective in your kindness, you must temper it with shrewdness. You must know when to withhold that kindness, when to let people feel the consequences of losing your generosity. Otherwise, your compassion is simply a sacrifice on the altar of your own downfall. You might worry, if I inspire fear, won't people hate me? Possibly, if you do it poorly. If you terrorize recklessly, if you humiliate and degrade, you will breed hatred that will eventually boomerang back to destroy you. But that is not the fear we speak of. We speak of the fear that fosters respectful caution, the fear that stops people from stepping out of line because they genuinely respect your capacity to retaliate, yet they do not resent your leadership outright. The line between respect and hatred can be razor thin. Nietzsche wrote that those who cannot govern themselves are quick to resent anyone who wields power effectively. Thus, your job is to calibrate the pressure you exert, enough to command respect, but not so much that you become a scapegoat for seething hostility. It's a delicate equilibrium, and it's far more secure than the fickle adoration of love. Ensure that your acts of enforcement are done with calculation, never with petty malice. Make it evident that you are punishing an offense, not lashing out from insecurity. When people witness that your enforcement is consistent and not arbitrary, they fear the rule, not the ruler's irrational rage. That is how you gain the lasting allegiance that unites behind you, rather than schemes against you. Do you still confuse leadership with winning popularity contests? If so, you are hopelessly naive. Popularity is a fickle deity that sways with every passing breeze. One day, people cheer your name. The next, they laugh at your downfall. Look at any historical figure who tried to base their entire rule on popularity. Once the people's mood shifted, they were dragged from their seats of power and left to the wolves. Real power is not about basking in applause. It's about commanding an environment with unwavering authority. You stand tall not because people like you, but because they need you, respect you, or fear crossing you. This approach is not for the faint-hearted. If you crave universal affection, you might as well remain a spectator in life's arena. But if you crave genuine influence, you must shatter your obsession with being liked. Popularity can be a nice byproduct of effective leadership, but it should never be your foundation. The moment you try to please everyone is the moment you relinquish your own core. And once you lose that core, you become a plaything in the hands of others' whims. Let that sink in. Power itself is a grand illusion. It is a shared hallucination, a tacit agreement upheld by the belief of the many. The moment the masses stop believing in your authority, it collapses faster than any physical structure. But here's the punchline. Illusions, if carefully maintained, can be far more enduring than any physical fortress. Because illusions occupy the mind, and the mind can be your greatest ally or your downfall. Just as Machiavelli insisted, perception is crucial. If you appear hesitant, incompetent, or fragile, the illusion that supports your power erodes. So you must constantly renew, reinforce, and sometimes shock people back into believing that your authority is real. You do this through consistent application of rules, deliberate acts of power, and, when needed, dramatic demonstrations that signal, "I am still the one in control." Think of power like a tightrope stretched over a bottomless chasm. Every step you take has weighty consequences. You keep your balance by never letting that rope slacken or fray. One miscalculation, one moment where you show abject weakness, and you plummet. It's not the cheering crowds that keep you alive. It's your skill in walking that rope, your unwavering commitment to sustaining the illusion of unwavering authority. If you entered the game of leadership expecting comfort, you've been deceived. Authentic power is a never-ending high-wire act. Your vigilance can never truly rest, because others, rivals, opportunists, or the next cunning subordinate are always testing the limits. And yet, ironically, that's where the thrill is. The edge is where all the potential for transformation lives. Weak souls yearn for a cozy existence free of tension, but they also remain caged by their timidity. When you embrace leadership, you accept a lifetime subscription to discomfort, and that's precisely how you stay sharp. Nietzsche wrote about amor fati, love of fate, love of everything that happens, even the hardship, because it makes you stronger. If you want real power, you must adopt a version of amor fati. You must embrace the hardships, the sleepless nights, the ceaseless vigilance, because they forge your edge. So ask yourself, do you really want this? If you crave absolute peace, step aside. Let others hold the reins. But if you're willing to bleed for it, if you find an electric pulse in your veins when you realize the stakes, then continue down the path. That willingness to dance with the unknown is the hallmark of genuine leadership. Words are cheap when they're used to beg for acceptance. Stop explaining yourself like a defendant on trial. An apology here, a disclaimer there, a pitiful over-explanation. It all reeks of insecurity. Real authority stands on its own. If your decisions are sound, you don't need to defend them incessantly. If people doubt you, let them watch what happens when they challenge your edict. The more you prattle on about your reasons, the more you feed the notion that your resolve is soft. This doesn't mean you should be mute or cryptic for its own sake. It means you must measure your words as if each is a bullet, used sparingly, aimed with purpose, and never wasted. People respond to brevity laced with confidence. When you walk into a room and declare your stance with no fluttering disclaimers or emotional appeals, you become a rock in a sea of drifting driftwood. They see that you mean business and that your composure is not for sale. Keep your justifications minimal and your actions decisive. Now, the critical pivot point. How do you maintain your hold on power without degenerating into a monster? It's a balance as precarious as forging steel. Too much heat, the metal cracks. Too little, it remains brittle. You must continually weigh the consequence of your actions, ensuring you inspire respect and fear without cultivating a widespread hatred that unites adversaries against you. Remember, power is taken, never handed to you on a platter. Once you seize it, whether in a corporate office or in the microcosm of your social circle, you must guard it with cunning. The moment you become complacent, your rivals swarm. The moment you become recklessly cruel, your subjects conspire. You walk a narrow corridor, and you cannot allow yourself to misstep. Always keep Machiavelli's caution in mind. People resent cruelty that feels wanton or excessive. If you must punish, do it swiftly, do it unmistakably, and ensure it is perceived as necessary, not as an outlet for your personal rage. People can forgive severity if it upholds order. They will not forgive tyranny that serves only your ego. That distinction is your lifeline. Fear is a potent, immediate lever of control. It makes people jump when you snap your fingers. But on its own, fear can be ephemeral the moment you leave the room or the moment someone bigger and scarier arrives. That's why you aim for a blend of fear and respect. Fear to deter direct challenges, respect to command loyalty even in your absence. When they fear you, they obey in your presence. When they respect you, they uphold your will beyond your line of sight. Respect fosters a sense of consistency. People may not like you, but they'll heed your word because they acknowledge your competence, your fairness, or your importance to their own success. Ask yourself, would your allies still act on your behalf if you vanished for a week? If the answer is no, if they revert to chaos the moment your intimidating eyes aren't watching, then you've only established fear. That is a precarious position. Build up that undercurrent of respect. Show them that your demands have reason behind them, that defiance leads to real consequences, but compliance leads to tangible benefits. Over time, that is how you create a fortress of influence that doesn't collapse in your absence. If you maintain constant pressure, like a clenched fist never relaxing, you will eventually exhaust even your most loyal supporters. Pressure is invaluable for instilling discipline, but there must be intervals of release. Let them breathe. Let them think. Let them make their own small errors. Only then will they experience the difference between your guiding hand and the confusion of going solo. When you see them falter or face obstacles, resist the urge to intervene too soon. Let them feel that sting, that confusion, that sense of uncertainty. Why? Because it makes them realize the value of your authority. They come running back for direction, not because you forced them, but because they've tasted life without it. This is how respect grows organically. A wise leader calibrates the tension dial, raising it to instill focus and compliance, easing it to grant autonomy and let lessons sink in. This approach ensures people do not see you as an unyielding tyrant, but as a strategic architect of the environment they operate in. Words can be potent weapons, but silence often reverberates louder. When you withdraw your response, you create a vacuum, an absence that gnaws at others' minds. They start guessing what you might be plotting, what you might be thinking, whether you're displeased. That nervous speculation does half your work for you. But be cautious. The tension of silence must be carefully measured. If you hold it too long or in the wrong context, you risk stoking irrational fears that morph into hatred. Strategic silence is a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Wield it with precision. Picture your next confrontation. Rather than blurting out an immediate retort, take a slight pause. Let your opponent's words hang in the air. Let the hush sink into their bones. Watch them flail to fill the awkward gap. They will reveal more than they intended. This is the subtlety of silence. It's the dramatic question mark that keeps everyone on edge, unsure of your next move, reminding them you are neither predictable nor docile. You might think constant scolding or intimidation is the only path to compliance, but that's a half-baked strategy. Praise, carefully administered, is like a precious commodity that, when given sparingly, becomes invaluable. People crave recognition, yearn for validation that they're on the right path. If you dole out compliments every 5 minutes, they lose their potency. If you never praise at all, you breed an environment of despair. The sweet spot is precision. Compliment strategic achievements in a brief, potent manner. When you do, it feels like an unexpected ray of sunlight piercing a stormy sky. Your subordinates or allies will remember that single acknowledgement far longer than the daily empty compliments they might receive from others. This method cements loyalty. You're effectively programming them to see you as the gatekeeper of meaningful recognition. And that's a powerful position to occupy. They will work harder, not for your love, but for that scarce, significant praise that affirms their value. You will have rivals. You must welcome them, or at least not cower from the inevitability of their existence. The most dangerous rival is the one lurking in the shadows, the one who hasn't made their ambitions obvious. Identify them, observe them discreetly, let them believe they're invisible, that you remain blissfully ignorant. Here's the Machiavellian twist. Sometimes it's useful to allow a rival to stage their little rebellion, or to challenge you openly, up to a point. Why? Because when you finally move to quash them, publicly, decisively, it serves as a demonstration of your unassailable power. It sends a cold shiver down everyone else's spine, reminding them that crossing you has consequences. However, be mindful of your timing. Eliminate a rival too soon, and people only vaguely register what happened. Leave them too long, and they can grow dangerously strong. Gauge the tipping point carefully. You want your rival's downfall to be educational to onlookers, not a rallying cry for revolution. An effective leader is a relentless observer. Don't get so caught up in your own display of power that you fail to notice the undercurrents swirling around you. Subordinates talking in hushed corners, minor oversights repeated by certain individuals, shifts in mood or body language. These are not trifles. They are the early signals of potential dissent or sabotage. Keep your eyes open. but your expressions guarded. Let them assume you're too busy or too self-assured to watch. Meanwhile, you gather data, piece by piece, building a mental map of who is loyal, who is wavering, and who is quietly waiting for your downfall. Then, at the moment of your choosing, you'll know exactly where to apply pressure or where to extend a carefully measured reward. Never reveal the full extent of your observation. If people realize how keenly you watch, they'll conceal their true intentions more deeply. It's more strategic to let them think you're only half aware, so their guard slips and their real motives surface in unguarded moments. When everything is going smoothly, even a feeble ruler can appear competent. The real crucible of leadership is crisis, the cataclysmic moment when all illusions are threatened. If, in a crisis, your voice trembles, your orders waver, or you allow panic to infect your ranks, you forfeit the respect that took you so long to build. Composure is your armor in chaos. Act with decisiveness, even if you're not 100% sure of the outcome. Hesitation is more lethal than a miscalculated decision. Why? Because hesitation breeds doubt in the minds of your followers. They start questioning if you're truly fit to lead. That doubt, left unchecked, spreads like a virus. Look at the historical figures who faced unimaginable adversity and emerged revered. They didn't do it by stalling or whining. They seized the moment, exuding unwavering confidence. Did they sometimes make mistakes? Sure, but they never let fear cripple their leadership. That is the standard by which you will be judged. How do you act when the world is collapsing? So, here we stand. You, with your illusions stripped away. Me, pressing these harsh realities against your mind like a blade. There is no formula that guarantees an easy reign. There is only the dance, the perpetual interplay of authority, psychology, fear, respect, and cunning. You wanted to be loved. Now you understand that love is but a precarious facade. You wanted comfort. Now you see that true influence demands you walk on razor's edge. You wanted applause. Now you realize applause is fleeting, and it can't save you in a crisis. Instead, you gain something far more substantial: strategic mastery over your environment and over yourself. You step beyond the naive illusions that kept you docile. You learn, as Machiavelli taught, that power is seized and must be tended carefully. You accept, with a grim grin like Nietzsche's overman, that your fate is to stand apart from the common herd, forging your own destiny with unblinking resolve. And in the spirit of Schopenhauer, you concede the turbulent nature of the human will, yet you harness that will for your own ascension. This path is not for everyone. It's for those who dare to look into the mirror and see the reflection of a decisive leader, a cunning strategist, someone who doesn't kneel to public sentiment, but commands it. If that resonates, you're ready to abandon the childlike chase for universal affection. You're ready to balance laws and force, love and fear, approach and withdrawal, generosity and punishment, silence and speech. Do you see it now? Your illusions have been the chain around your throat. Strip them away. Embrace the tension. Embrace the lonely nights when only your iron determination keeps you warm. Embrace the risk of wielding power in a world that devours the weak. You wanted a life of meaning? Here is your crucible. Walk it with pride. So stand up, square your shoulders, and decide in this very moment. Will you remain the timid pleaser, forever trying to bribe the world into loving you? Or will you, at long last, become the strategist who commands fear and respect in equal measure, who doesn't cower when storms rage, but harnesses their electricity to fuel your grand design? Step forward into your new realm, govern with a cold, unwavering hand when necessary, with strategic kindness when beneficial, and never once forget that your authority must be perpetually earned and protected. This is the life of the true leader, always on the edge, forever vigilant, forging order from the chaos that lesser souls flee. Now go. Seize the respect you have forfeited for too long. Mold your environment with cunning. When the next crisis knocks on your door, greet it with an iron jaw and a steady gaze. Let the timid masses hustle in confusion while you remain unshakable. Remind them, without a single stammer, that real power is not a birthright, but a relentless conquest of the mind. This is your final wake-up call. Embrace the brutal truths or be devoured by them. The choice, like the throne, is yours to take and yours alone. If this resonated with you, then subscribe for future videos.